Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Street Soccer United podcast with me, Keith Mabbott, the founder and CEO of the Street Soccer Foundation. And on today's show, I'm really pleased to be welcoming Grace Kelly, the director founder of 21st Century Flooring and also director of Home From Home Kent Limited. Grace, it's lovely of you to join us today. Firstly, for the benefit of our listeners, our partners and supporters, and the young people we help through the foundation, please give a brief introduction to yourself.
Hi Keith, thank you for inviting me for being on your podcast. My name is Grace Kelly. I was born in Rangoon, Burma, but what is now called Myanmar. Although I love my heritage, the food, the culture and the country, having been here since I was 2, I'm fiercely proud to be British, supporting all sporting events for Britain and defending it to anyone that would talk ill of this beautiful country. My family and friends are the most important thing to me. But high on that list comes my ethics and integrity, and always to be myself. It's far too exhausting trying to be someone else. Although now I have the confidence to stand in front of people and to talk about my business, it's taken years to get to this point. Always having a preference to blend into the background and be unnoticed, the limelight was something I hated and avoided and still do to a degree. Like everyone else I've ever met, to stand up in front of people and tell them about who you are and what your business is, I was shaking from head to toe, quaking in my boots, so to speak. But someone once said to me, courage is not standing up and talking if you can do it, but standing up and talking when you believe you can't do it. Once you've stood up that first time in front of an audience, be it 2, 20 or 50 people, it does get easier every time. But it did take me about 3 years before I stopped shaking. And now, 20 years later, I now and again get a little shaky, but that's good. It's a reminder of what I've achieved. I'm reminded that once I was scared of my own shadow, and I can tell you that if I can do it, anyone can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Grace. So when you were younger, did you always have a clear mind on what you wanted to do, as a future career path?
I'd love to say I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I was older. I thought I'd love to be an air hostess, believing I would have the chance to travel the world and experience life in different countries. Sadly, only ever reaching the heights of 5 foot 2 inches. I'm not that height anymore, unfortunately. It was not to be. So being the obedient child I was, I had taken up typing as a fallback, plan B as you would say. But then, oh my, so many years ago, my typewriter was not plugged into the wall. It wasn't electric, wasn't a computer. You have to go into an antique shop now to see the typewriter I learnt on. Unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, I had to leave home a month before I was 17. I was just in a room in a private house. I was still at school, trying to retake my exams. I'd saved a little bit of money from a weekend job I had in Carnaby Street in London and set out to find a full-time job. I had several interviews and traipsed the streets of London to get to each one of them, and at the end of each day had aching feet and was exhausted. I finally had an interview with Cunard, the shipping company, who were expecting a Welsh girl with my maiden name of Davis, but I got the job as receptionist in Marble Arch and time off to take my exams. I realised quickly that my job would not pay enough money to get a place of my own and took a waitressing job for 3 nights a week after work to top up my money, and because it gave me a dinner for those 3 nights, I knew then I didn't have to find food for myself. I never got my tips, which is what I was relying on. It was always shared on a Friday night, and I never worked on a Friday night. I realise now that was done purposely. Life is so unfair sometimes. I remember being in a supermarket on Walworth Road and queuing up at the butcher's counter, and the guy served the lady in front of me, and when he'd finished serving her, he then served the person behind me. Now I know I wanted invisibility, but I felt he was taking the Michael. I got a strop on, stormed out of the shop, and the words, "cut off your nose to spite your face," came to mind. I didn't go back to that shop again. I was too embarrassed. But I realised, and it hit me all at once, There is only one person I can rely on, and that person is me. No one is going to come and save me. I have to save myself. So now I am scraping by. I don't have any spare cash. I have just enough to live on and to feed my huge Alsatian dog, who was my security. So I had to get another job. The nights I was not working at the restaurant, I took a bar job in the August of that same year. Officially, I was underage, but the family felt sorry for me, and until I was 18, paid me cash in hand. Shh, don't tell anybody. I now had a bit of money to go and buy some clothes and some shoes. Whoop whoop!
Well, I never knew that, you wanting to be an air hostess, Grace. And I didn't realise you'd left home at 17 to make your own way in life. But, you talked about there, you managed to get a job for yourself at Q&R. So tell us about sort of how it all then progressed for you and leading up to when, 21st Century Flooring came about. I'm aware you formed that, your own business back in 2001. And I'd love to know sort of what made you start your own business and how you got it off the ground in the first place.
After about 20 months, I was made redundant from Q&R. They were moving the head office to the main office in Hammersmith, and there was already a receptionist there, so I had to find another job. I was then a receptionist at the Territorial Army on the King's Road. I had to give up my waitressing job as I couldn't get to it on time. I was always late. I was there for less than a year. In that space of time I was there, within 3 months, I had been mugged 3 times. And the final time, I had been flung to the floor and kicked viciously until I couldn't walk. My cries for help were ignored, and when I was found, an ambulance had to be called. I had 50p on me at the time, so there was no great robbery because I had nothing on me. What little confidence I had left me, and I gave up both my receptionist and bar job. I just wanted a job that I could hide behind. No one would see me. I then started working for solicitors. It was just me and my boss. I just did what I was told, and with my head down, worked furiously. The solicitors were merging, so again was made redundant and found another job working at Ludgate Service, again solicitors. Unfortunately, my boss was a bully. No matter what I did, he was always shouting at me. I used to cry on my way to work as I hated it so much. I left after 6 months, but now hated working as a secretary. My best friend, strangely enough, was offered my job, and he did exactly the same to her, but this time the company asked him to leave. I worked for another firm again, solicitors, and my boss had been a tyrant to all his previous secretaries, but had been warned that if I left because of him, he wouldn't get another secretary. As it happens, we got on fantastically. He was lovely. And I eventually left, but it was only to run my own cafe. But he told me when I left that I had been his best secretary ever, and if I ever wanted another job, to come back to him, and he would always find a place for me. I left his office sobbing. Personnel was so angry, they thought that he had been horrid. But I explained that he hadn't. I left to do what I'd always wanted to do, and that was to run some kind of food place, which I did for 3 years. Loved every minute. It was a cafe down in Luton in Midway. The very first day I opened the cafe, my customer was an elderly, very loud lady. I was so scared about being in the public eye. Both me and my griddle chef were hiding behind a wall, arguing as to who should go out and serve her. I told him he should, because he'd already been working in a cafe, and he told me to pull my big boy pants on and get out there because it was my cafe. So I did. Thank you for that, Lee. It was ridiculous, really, because all she wanted was a cup of tea. Unfortunately, the busier I got, the greedier the landlord got, and he kept putting the rent up, so we could no longer earn a living because of the high rent and the outgoings. So I had to give the cafe up.
I certainly agree with what you said there, Grace, earlier on about when you do run your own business, it can be very, very lonely. That has come up a few times in previous podcast show with other business leaders that I've had the pleasure to speak with, and I think it's really good advice you've just given there. That for anyone. Just be the best version of yourself, and get out there and network and build a supportive network, because then you don't have to do it on your own. It's as I say, there's a lot of owner managers out there, a lot of entrepreneurs, and certainly through what we've come through, I'm sure you'll agree, it's been very challenging. The whole country's had a challenging time, and this is what it's about. It's relationships, it's building those networks and peer-to-peer, sort of friendships, I guess, to help you get through the working day and the working week and the year, to help you create your own future for yourself and your family. So really good advice. Now, I know it was a couple of years ago you went on to sort of launch Home from Home Kent, I think it is, and running two businesses alongside each other. How did it come about, and how did you actually manage to do that, running two firms at the same time?
After my husband and I broke up, I was in a relationship for about 10 years. And it was in that time I'd invested in a property with my partner. Sadly, our relationship was getting worse as time went on. And when it came to its conclusion, he wanted me to leave, and he gave me a choice of walking out the door or leaving in a wheelchair. I lost over £80,000 and had to start again. That's when I started to rent my spare rooms out to people that needed short-term accommodation. Working in the local area, it was easy. Digs were cheap for workers, and they had everything they needed in their room: kettle, microwave, TV, fridge, tea, coffee, sugar and a toaster. This was just a little sideline to help me build up some money while I concentrated on building my business. It wasn't until about 2018 that is Paul, my partner, and myself, decided to grow this bigger and to create a business of service accommodation for people that needed to work in the area or wanted to visit the historic towns of Rochester and Chatham. Hence, Home from Home Kent was created. My son Paul and myself now run both 21st Century Flooring and Home from Home. Supporting each other and pushing the business forward is always on our minds. How can we move forward? What do we need to invest to make it better? What, not necessarily bigger, but definitely better. Our customer service is the most important thing. We realised early in the development of companies that rave reviews will always do more than an advert. Keep it simple. Address the pain of our customers and clients, attending to what their expectations are, but most of all, listening to what they need and addressing it.
Grace, it's incredible again for how Home from Home came about, and again, what a story, what an insight, and thank you so much for sharing that. In that relation, I guess, what advice do you think you'd give your 20-year-old self, if you could, after all of what you've learned up to this point? What are the key lessons that you've learned about being a business leader?
Advice now is not to wait, take action. I spent too long on the sidelines watching people have an amazing life, too scared to believe I deserve that life too. Invest in myself and strive to become a better me, so I had the confidence to do the things I'm doing now. So for me, before I get a strop on, think about the consequences. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face. And if you can help someone who wants to be a better person of themselves, a better version of themselves, then take that hand they are offering you. And when they succeed, you know you had a tiny bit of guiding them on that path. I don't know if I could call myself a business leader, but I do believe that whether we are new to business, experience, sometimes we need a helping hand, someone to talk to, someone that has been through what I've been through and come out the other side, and now can advise me how to achieve this. I want to share this with everyone, and if I don't have the experience and knowledge, I'm damn sure I know someone that has.
I really like that, Grace. It's brilliant. Don't wait. Just get out there. Just take action and invest in yourself. And where you can, go out of your way to help others. And I have to say that is really something that has stood me in good stead. I think over the last few years, I mean, obviously I've run the Street Soccer Foundation now since 2015. It's 5 years old already. Time just flies. But when I formed the foundation, it was absolutely from day one all about partnerships, helping other people at its core. And it's enabled us to build an incredible supportive network around the foundation. And it really is a collaborative affair, So I entirely agree with you. It's very much, just you come up with something, give it a go for it, talk to people, get out there and just take action. So in that sense, I mean, I'm also aware of your other interests and support of the Sunlight Rotary Club in the Midway in Kent. which is another wonderful supporter of the Street Soccer Foundation, by the way. And really, thank you so much, Grace, for that, and all the team behind, and involved with the Sunlight Rotary. We're immensely grateful. But why do you do that, and what did you get out of it?
I can't remember when I joined Midway Sunlight Rotary, but it is definitely one of the best things I've ever done. Previous to this, I was helping out twice a week at lunchtimes at a drop-in centre in the heart of Rochester. I didn't have any spare money to give to charity, but I did have time, and so helping out for nearly a year before it closed made me realise that I wanted to help whenever I could. Giving something back to people who had less than I did, and I didn't have a lot, and still don't. But it made me feel that I had helped someone. However, my vision was to open a hall on Christmas Day to feed people who were homeless, families in crisis, and people on their own. Having spent Christmas Day on my own several times, I understood how some people can feel when it seems like the rest of the world are having a great time. I'm on my own. Between Christmas and New Year, it's the highest rate of suicides, and it really makes my heart ache. Amongst the many charities Midway Sunlight Rotary support, they gave me the opportunity to achieve my vision, and we will be running our 6th Christmas Day dinner this year. All being allowed, but one way or another we will get that food out to so many vulnerable people. So when I met you, Keith, I had just completed my presidency for Rotary and I had to choose a charity. But there were so many and I didn't find one that quite fitted my criteria. When I heard your first presentation, it was a light bulb moment. I knew there and then I wanted you to be my charity. And after talking to the board, they were happy to support me. But once they heard you speak at our meeting, they loved you and the work you do. What do I get out of it? Love. The love that I feel for my fellow man or woman. I don't need them to thank me. I just want to see their face when they've achieved something, no matter how small. To hear their laughter as they eat their Christmas dinner and talk to our volunteers. I know they have left with a full tummy and have food for the evening and the next day in a packed lunch. What more do I need? What more could I ask for? I just know that with Midway Sunlight Rotary, we can achieve almost anything that we want to fundraise for. And I love Midway Sunlight Rotary. The people in there are amazing.
Your Christmas Day dinner event, Grace, is just incredible. I need to get along to one of those, and I'm sorry that I've not done that already. But I know how much work and effort you put into it, and what an incredible occasion it is. And that's down to the beauty of your heart. Frankly, it's your brainchild, and what you make happen with everyone around you in doing that is just incredibly special. And thank you as well very much indeed for the opportunity that you gave me. When you heard me speak, and obviously invited me in to meet with the team at Sunlight, and I was delighted to meet with the board and the team involved. And again, thank you for your warm support. It was greatly, appreciated and really encouraging. The words that I got back in terms of our endeavour as well. So it's a lovely meeting of minds, I think, frankly, is what's probably fair to say there, that everyone involved at Sunlight who I've met and who and talk about Grace, everyone involved is just absolutely wonderful, and I echo your words. So what's next on the horizon for you, Grace? What's up next? I mean, you and your business, how do you see the next year or so, and, as we come out of this lockdown, what's next?
Well, coming out of COVID, I'm hoping that we are able to purchase premises for the shop. What we're hoping to do is open a flooring shop, and once established, it will eventually be our exit strategy. We want to sell the business and use the funds for what we're doing at the moment alongside our other two businesses, and that is refurbishing and developing properties. Eventually, what I would like to have is a shop run by volunteers where people can drop by and have a bite to eat, a hot drink, step into the warmth and out of the cold, and they don't have to pay for their sandwich or beans on toast or cup of soup. Nothing fancy, just food, nourishment. Whether this will ever come true, who knows? I have to have a chat to the universe.
What a lovely vision you've got there, Grace. You are going to make that happen, and I cannot wait for the day when it actually comes, because it is going to come. It's a matter of time. So I wish you every success on that in terms of getting your shop premises and obviously hopefully ultimately selling the business. And again, you and I both know, we've got people around us, and you have certainly, that I'm sure will be able to help you along that journey as well. So good luck with that. But we've come to the final question now, Grace. Goodness me, it's flown by. But we always ask, what's the best advice you've ever been given, and by who?
The best advice ever given to me was from a friend of mine. When I first started my business, his name was Alan Champion. He told me, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that order. Listen to your customer or client twice more than you would speak. I do this unconsciously now, as it has proved to be invaluable over the years, both to my personal and my business life. Thank you.
Yeah, love that. I've come across that myself as well, and it's great. And it really does ring true, doesn't it? You've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, and use them in that order. Solid advice. Grace, thank you so very much indeed for your time today. It's been an absolute privilege to sit and listen to what you've had to say, and I really hope our audience gets a great deal of value from it, and I'm certain they will do. So there you go, everyone. You've listened here to the incredible and wonderfully generous Grace Kelly of 21st Century Flooring and Home from Home Kent Limited. Be sure to tune in again next week for our next podcast interview.